Good morning and welcome to your science lesson. You will need all the usual equipment, you may not need a calculator, and all of your notes should be made in your homework book. Set them out as you would for a lesson, including the title and the short form of the date. You should have registered for this lesson, so if you have not yet signed in on the register, please go do that now. And you also need to complete the low stakes quiz, which is on the classwork tab. These were the questions that were on the low stakes quiz. This is also your KIP quiz. You need to continue to revise those knowledge organiser statements every Monday night as part of your homework. Specific heat capacity is the amount of energy to raise 1 kilogram of a substance by 1 degree C. The amount of energy needed for 1 kilogram of a substance to change state is the specific latent heat. The law of conservation of mass is the law that tells us that the mass of products always equals the mass of reactants. We never lose any atoms or particles. The number of atoms in 1 mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23. It's a huge number, so you can imagine that standard form is necessary, and a mole is a measurement of the amount of substance. Today's lesson is based on the required practical that you need to know for specific heat capacity. Make sure you've underlined that title with a ruler and that you've put the short form of the date. So, using appropriate apparatus to make and record measurements of mass, time and temperature, using appropriate apparatus to measure energy changes, transfers and associated values, and make and record observations and measurements using a range of apparatus and methods. So you need your whiteboard here, and what I'd like you to do is to divide your whiteboard up into these 5 sections. If you've got really sort of large handwriting, it may be that you need to use both sides of your whiteboard, in which case have the purpose of the practical, the variables and the calculations needed on one side, and then the method and the comments on the other. The only issue with that, though, is you might rub off some text. So if you can squeeze it in, it would be worthwhile. I'm not going to actually play the video to you. The video is linked in the task box, so you can watch the video from its original source. While you're watching the video, you are going to make notes. So what was the purpose of the practical? What are we trying to find out? What were the variables? So if you remember, there are 3 types of variable. The independent variable, which is the one that is changed by the scientist. So what is he going to change in this experiment? The dependent variable is the one that he measures. So what is being recorded in that experiment? And then the control variables are what must be kept the same. So you should be able to give me some examples of all the different types of variables for this experiment. And the scientist talks about calculations that are needed to enable us to work out specific heat capacity. So make sure you've got those down. You do not need to do the joule meter because we wouldn't use a joule meter here in school. I need notes on the method. So how did he do the practical? And then any additional comments. So is there anything else that he said that you think would be a useful thing? So for example, do you need to repeat the experiment? Is it a case of repeating it 3 times, then changing the material, or is he doing it differently? And how could he improve the experiment? He talks about that too. So you're going to watch the video, you're going to make notes. Some of you may wish to watch the video more than once to make sure that you've got a really good understanding of this practical. Because it's a required practical, it can be asked in an exam, so there could be a whole question on this practical, including calculations for specific heat capacity. The video is with Malmesbury School Science, so hopefully when you clicked on the link, it's taking you straight to this video. It's 7 minutes long, so to watch it twice will still only take you about 15 minutes. Feel free to pause the video as you are taking notes. So you've watched the video, you've made your own notes on your whiteboard. You now have 10 questions that I would like you to answer. And this is the page that you are going to photograph and upload to either Google Classrooms, which should be easiest for you, or you can email it to me, awalker@gloucesteracademy.co.uk. I am expecting quality answers. So I want you to think about how you're going to structure your answers and really think about what was said in the video, because all of the answers you've been given. Then before we finish, you need to write up the method and you need to say how we are going to calculate specific heat capacity. When writing up a method, you must ensure that it is in a sequence. So you should have step 1, step 2, step 3. Just putting 1.2.3. is absolutely fine. You need to keep the statement short and precise. And you need to include calculations used so that SHC can be calculated. I should be able to pick up your method and follow it to calculate specific heat capacity. You have those notes on your whiteboard. Just to give you an example, so something to get you started, I've said boil 200 mils of water in a kettle, place a tea bag in a mug, add the boiling water to the mug and leave to stand for 1 minute. That's the first 3 stages of the method to make a cup of tea. Good luck. I look forward to reading your methods and seeing your answers to the 10 questions. Have a great weekend.